The news with Ayrece Stewart. Good morning, Ayrece.
Good morning, Sophie.
We start with the headlines.
Deputy Prime Minister Paul Béranger warns of urgent energy crisis as recent power cuts, aging plants and rising demand spark fears of more outages as summer approaches. Mauritius Renewable Energy Agency pushes for rapid green energy transition. ICT Minister Avinash Ramtahal to lead Inter-Ministerial Committee on Digital Transformation. Spike in acute respiratory infections amid cold, dry weather sees over 4,000 cases recorded in 1 week. Mauritius suspends mail transport to Rodrigues due to cargo space shortage. In world news, 6.1 magnitude earthquake strikes western Turkey while no casualties reported so far. And in sports news, Crystal Palace clinched 2025-2026 Community Shield after penalty shootout win over Liverpool. We start this morning with what has been dubbed an urgent matter in the immediate term from Deputy Prime Minister Paul Béranger. On the 7th of August, during a press conference, he sounded the alarm on the energy crisis, reminding that just a few weeks ago the country experienced for the first time power cuts due to insufficient production, aging power plants, an overstretched grid, and summer approaching fast. Will the Central Electricity Board be able to avoid the worst? Should we fear more frequent outages, and what quick solutions can be considered? More details on this with Pranav Bihari.
A clear warning, tough times are ahead. Last week, Paul Béranger did not mince his words when speaking about the energy crisis. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that it's inevitable for us to be in a crisis at the end of the year. We will have a situation like in South Africa with load shedding and rotating blackouts. Hotter and harsher summers and an energy consumption that soars every single year. Between 2024 and 2025, demand jumped by 42 megawatts, almost 3 times higher than expected. Rolling blackouts are therefore not entirely off the table, according to Mohamed Shamshir Mokun, head of generation at DCEB.
We will do our best. Firstly, we'll ensure that all the power plants are available by doing the maintenance in advance. Sensitization campaigns will also be held with the help of the ministry to lower the demand in electricity. Of course, if after all these efforts there is no improvement, maybe then we'll have to perform load shedding. Peut-être à ce moment-là, nous pouvons à ce moment-là faire une petite coupure d'une région à une autre.
But for now, how is the national power producer coping? When thermal plants more than 30 years old struggle to meet demand, the fallback is the power barge or combustion turbines. Short-term fixes are preferred, but they come with their own constraints, admits Mohamed Shamshir Mokun.
We have a power ship project to provide 100 megawatts of power. The call for tender has been launched and the deadline is the 15th of August. However, we have identified some constraints, environmental ones, as well as around the port, and we'll have to set up underwater cables. We have also launched a second call for tender for gas turbines, and the deadline is the 24th of August. 1 or 2 turbines of 30 megawatts should be installed in substations to help us satisfy the demand. 30 megawatts, nous pourrons installer ça dans une sous-station pour essayer de nous passer la situation.
In the long run, the CEB aims to shift towards renewable energy with major projects such as a natural gas power plant of over 400 megawatts. But between finding the land, securing licenses and mobilizing expertise, the road ahead will be long and full of hurdles.
And staying on this subject, not these short-term solutions are not a luxury, but a necessity because summer is coming quickly. Faced with heat waves, more and more Mauritians are installing air conditioners, but beware at peak hours. The risk of load shedding remains very real, warns Khalil Elahi, energy expert and president of the Mauritius Renewable Energy Agency. He is voiced over by Pranav Bihari.
Bizarre agir et face à la réalité qui nous est là en ce moment.
We must act, especially given the current situation. We know how hot summer can be and lots of people will resort to air conditioning. So we could have record electricity usage, especially between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. on weekdays. In the event of a high increase in demand and projects like the power ship and other don't materialize, we would have to activate load shedding. Temporarily, each region would be affected by power cuts.
Chaque région, N par N.
And for the future, electricity consumption increases every year and the trend is not slowing down. According to the president of the Mauritius Renewable Energy Agency, it is urgent to invest in green energy. But where to start? To guide this discussion, the government agency is bringing together sector stakeholders on 11 August 2025 in Balaclava for a validation workshop on the 2025-2030 Renewable Energy Strategic Plan. From this meeting will emerge a clear roadmap, says Khalil Elahi, which the Ministry of Energy will use to implement the measures decided at the end of this day of discussions.
A strategic plan will give us a direction and a vision to follow and help us set priorities. We will assemble all stakeholders and discuss about it, and after this there will be some additional consultations, but quite rapidly the ministry will set up a new roadmap which will help us define the projects to be undertaken and what are the objectives. Today we'll talk about NDC 3.0, the third generation of the nationally determining contributions in line with the Paris Agreement. We must come up with commitments and steps to be taken to improve the situation.
3.0, ça veut dire nous peut arriver à un troisième VH.
The Minister of ICT, Avinash Ramtahal, will head an interministerial committee tasked with implementing the blueprint project for the 2025-2026 digital transformation. This committee, which includes 6 other ministries, will ensure effective and transparent execution of the project. Minister Ramtahal provides more details to Priyanka Hari, voiced over by Krishen Sitya.
What is interesting with the technological world is that it fits in everywhere. We need to have the adequate tool to be able to run an enterprise, to interact with the government, in education, in health, and in all other sectors. The blueprint, when you look at it, it reaches all these mentioned sectors, so in order to be able to implement it, it is important to bring all players from different ministries together, but not at the same time. We are looking at priorities of projects. We've created an interministerial committee which will look into the implementation of the blueprint because there's a lot of coordination that needs to be done.
And with the cold and dry weather persisting these days, the number of acute respiratory infection cases have risen considerably. Between 28 July and 3 August, 4,093 cases were recorded. According to Dr. Fazil Kulabakis, Acting Director of Health Services at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, this represents a slight increase compared to the same period last year. He gave more details to Priyanka Hari with voiceover by Krishen Sitya.
Between 28th July and 3rd August, we have registered 4,093 cases of acute respiratory infection. During the same period of last year, we got around 4,000 cases, thus a slight increase, which is due to the cold and dry climate. This is prone to acute respiratory infections, contaminations. There are also cases of flu, COVID-19, among others, being registered.
Meanwhile, Dr. Fazil Kulabakis also reminds the public of the precautionary measures to take.
The public needs to take precautions because these viruses are very contagious. It is transmitted when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Thus, it is very important to have a cough etiquette in hand. You should wash your hands regularly and to wear a mask in closed areas. People with comorbidities are at risk of having complications. It is to be noted that vaccines against flu are available in all regional hospitals.
And in other news, Air Mauritius has suspended until further notice the transport of mail to Rodrigues due to a lack of space in aircraft holds. Mauritius Post Limited states that letters and parcels will now only be sent by sea, which will result in longer delivery times. This measure follows high demand for freight and passenger transport on flights to the island, preventing the airline from guaranteeing regular carriage of mail bags. Mauritius Post stresses that this decision is temporary. However, no date has yet been announced for the resumption of air postal services. listening to RM1. It's 9:10 and we move now to international news where abroad a 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck western Turkey yesterday. According to the Turkish Disaster Management Agency, the quake was felt in many western cities including Istanbul and Izmir. However, Turkish authorities have not yet reported any casualties and cleanup operations are ongoing. And finally, we end with sports. The 2025-2026 season officially kicked off yesterday with the traditional Community Shield at Wembley, a trophy claimed by Crystal Palace after a 3-2 victory on penalties against Liverpool. The score was level at 2-2 after regular time. Hugo Ekitike opened the scoring in the 4th minute, the perfect start under his new colours. 13 minutes later, Jean-Philippe Mateta equalised for Palace from the penalty spot after Virgil van Dijk fouled Ismail Yassar in the box at a time when Liverpool held 61% possession. In the 21st minute, another new signing, Jeremy Frimpong, restored the Reds' lead with a fortunate lob that beat keeper Dean Anderson, but on a slot side failed to hold onto the advantage. Ismail Yassar struck again in the 77th minute, set up by Adam Wharton to make it 2-2. In the shootout, Mohamed Salah, Alexis McAllister and RV Elliott all failed to convert, handing Crystal Palace their second ever trophy after last season's FA Cup triumph. And that's all from me this morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned now to the Intermid playlist until 10 a.m.